This video narration may include elements that some might find disturbing. Viewers and/or listeners' discretion is advised. This week, we're trying something different for this specific story. We'll tell this story like reading a thread from some social media site. So, we decided to invite a few people to help us out narrate this story. All right, introduce yourself, guys. Let's start with you, Nika.
Nika?
Wait, that's it? Tell us more, come on. Like, what do you do for a living?
Haoki, I'm a barista, and I do songwriting and singing on the side as well.
Nice. All right, next.
Hi everyone, name's Eds. I'm the audio and video editor for Enigmatic Episodes.
Chris here, and I'm a service desk rep.
Hi, I'm Phil, and I'm a freelance virtual assistant.
And last is...
Hi, my name's Maeve, and I'm a social media manager.
All right. These are the people who will help us narrate our stories this week. You guys good?
Yep.
Game. Let's go.
Okay, let's begin. Hi, my name is Lucas, and welcome to Enigmatic Episodes, where we delve into the most spine-tingling stories from the depths of the internet. Each week, we select a topic and tell our listeners 2 hair-raising stories about the subject. One is a chilling creepypasta, a tale that may or may not be true, while the other is an alleged true account based on well-documented cases or news reports, which we present in a gripping narrative format. Details about the stories will be provided after both stories are finished. If you're interested, grab yourself a snack, coffee, or beer, and sit tight as we guide you through hair-raising stories that will make you question what's real and what's not. This week's topic is trains or train station horror stories. And our first story is called The Devil Station.
This may just be my imagination. Can I post it anyway?
Go ahead.
What's going on?
I've been riding a certain train for a while, but something seems off. I always take this train to work, but it hasn't stopped at any stations for the past 20 minutes or so. It usually only takes 5 minutes, 7 or 8 at worst. And there are 5 other passengers, but they're all sleeping.
Did you take the express train by mistake?
Is it a high-speed train?
Well, it's possible I may have just missed my stop. I'll wait a little longer. If anything else strange occurs, I might bring it up here.
Try going to the car at the end to see the conductor, maybe?
It would be really bad if the driver had an epileptic fit or something.
Still no sign of stopping, so alright, I'll take a look. There were blinds or something covering the window, so I couldn't see the conductor or the driver. The route is a private railway in Shizuoka.
Knock on the window?
I tried that, but nobody answered.
Can you see out the window? Names of stations you're passing, etc.
We came out of a tunnel, so we're dropping speed slightly. There usually aren't any tunnels, though. It's a train from Shin Hamamatsu. Looks like we're finally stopping at a station.
You aren't going to get off there, are you?
We're stopped at Kisaragi Station. I wonder if I should get off. I've never heard of this place before.
Definitely check it out.
No, stay on until the last stop.
Oh, but it's probably already departing now.
When did you get on the train?
I've gotten off the train. The station's unmanned. I believe I got on the train at 11:40.
I'm not finding any information on Kisaragi Station. And Hasumi, your train was going for over an hour. Well, that's really strange.
Yeah, I'm not getting any results for Kisaragi Station.
I'm looking for a schedule so I can get back, but I can't find one. The train is still stopped, so it'd probably be safest to get back on. Well, it left while I was writing that.
Is there anyone nearby or any buildings? It's cold out, so be careful.
I'll look for a taxi from the station. Thank you very much.
Sounds good. Take care.
Way past the last train at an unmanned station. Really questionable if you'll have any luck finding a taxi there.
And so Hasumi became an inhabitant of the two-dimensional world.
There don't seem to be any taxis anywhere.
Call 110.
Call the taxi company.
If there's a telephone booth nearby, look up the taxi company in the phone book and call them.
I called home and asked to be picked up, but neither of my parents seem to know where Kisaragi Station is. They'll look for it on the map so they can come get me, but I'm getting a little scared now.
What about the others? Are you the only one who got off the train?
I checked online too, and the name Kisaragi Station isn't coming up. Am I wrong in assuming it's around Shin Hamamatsu? I'll check Yahoo.
I looked for a public phone, but there's nothing. And no one else got off, so I'm alone now. It's definitely called Kisaragi.
Sometimes they have phones outside the station.
Looking into it, apparently it's written with the kanji for devil. But it's read Kisaragi.
Devil Station? Yikes.
Are you a gaming nerd? Because a game comes up if you Google it.
Tell us the names of the stations before and after Kisaragi.
What do you mean, a game? It doesn't say what the next and previous stations are.
Walk back along the track.
If you start running now, you might catch up to the train.
There must be houses around the station, right?
Yes, there are. I didn't quite notice since I was panicking. I'm waiting for my parents to call while walking along the track. I tried checking town information on iMode, but it gave me a point error or something. I want to go home. There's really just nothing around here. All I can see are fields and mountains. But I think I'll be able to make it back if I go down the track, so I'll keep pushing on. Thank you very much. Treat this as a joke if you will, but can I come to you if I encounter any more trouble?
Of course, just be careful out there.
Just make sure you don't run out of battery. Your phone's your lifeline right now.
Don't get lost. And be careful in the tunnel.
Huh, you can get a signal out in the middle of nowhere. I kinda think you shouldn't stray far from the station.
All alone on a cold night at a station with no attendants. Soon the lights could go out and it'll be pitch black.
Really might be safest to wait for daybreak at the station, though.
Oh geez, this sounds bad.
I got a call from my father, and he had many questions, but simply couldn't find my location. I've been told to call 110, which I'm a little opposed to doing, but I'll try asking them to help me now.
I really think you should wait until it gets lighter out before you do anything.
Waiting all alone in the dead of night and in some ominous place? Yikes.
Going through a tunnel alone in the dead of night and on some ominous train line? Double yikes.
I called 110 and tried my absolute best to explain the situation, but they thought it was all a joke and got angry at me. So I got scared and apologized.
Apologize for what? You should probably give up for today. Wait for the first train.
What's it like around the station? What's there?
I hear what sounds like a beating drum mixed with some kind of bell way off in the distance. Honestly, I have no idea what to do at this point.
Get back to the station for now, Hasumi.
Here's where it gets going.
Are they having a festival or what?
You might think I'm kidding, but I'm too scared to look behind me. I do want to go back to the station, but I don't dare turn around.
Run, and don't look back.
You can't go back to the station now. Run through the tunnel. I'm sure you'll find you're not far.
Someone behind me yelled, "Hey, don't walk on the track, that's dangerous." I looked around expecting to see an attendant, and saw a one-legged old man, but he vanished. I think I'm too scared to move.
I told you not to look back. Run!
Calm down and listen to Big Bro, okay? Check out where that drum's coming from. There's bound to be somebody playing it.
Where the hell are you planning to take Hasumi?
Why'd you know it was an old man if it was just a single leg?
I think Hasumi meant an old man who lost one of his legs.
Must have been an old man who died and lost a leg after walking along the track.
I can't walk or run any further. The drumming sound is getting a little closer.
Wait for dawn. It won't be scary in the daylight.
I'm glad I stayed on the train.
I'm still alive, but I fell and started bleeding, and I broke a heel, so I'm sitting still on the ground. I don't want to die.
It should be safe if you leave the tunnel. Once you get out of there, call for help immediately.
I called home. Dad's calling the police, but the sound keeps getting closer.
I hope to God that's not the sound of a train, but it might be too late.
I finally managed to make it to the front of the tunnel. The name says Isanuki. The sound's still getting closer, so I'm going to leave the tunnel. If I'm safe once I get out of the tunnel, I'll post again.
Good luck.
This is the end. Forget about trains and stations, forget about going back, forget about someone chasing you. The sound you're hearing is just something you imagined. Run out of the tunnel. If you stop, you'll only succumb to something which does not belong in this world.
I left the tunnel. There's someone up ahead. It looks like all your advice was right after all. Thank you so much. My face is such a mess from tears. He might just mistake me for a monster.
Wait, Hasumi. Don't die on us.
Stop. That can't be good.
Someone there? This late at night?
He seems gentle and was worried for me. He called for a train to take me to the nearest station. Apparently there's some kind of business hotel there. I'm truly, truly thankful to all of you.
Hasumi, please answer me this one thing. Can you ask that man what that place is?
Is he really gentle? He sounds kind of scary from what you said.
That guy's no good. Why's he by the track at this hour? He must have been a corpse or something. Hasumi, run!
I asked him where it was, and he said Hina. That seems extremely unlikely, though.
Hasumi, get off the train.
Excuse me, Hasumi, where is Hina?
We've been headed toward the mountains for some time. It really doesn't strike me as a place where trains would go. And he stopped talking to me entirely.
Probably because you're constantly messing with your phone?
Hasumi, oh no. Did you contact your parents after you got out of the tunnel and received aid from this guy?
Hasumi, please call 110. This might be your last chance.
My battery's almost run out. Things are getting strange, so I think I'm going to make a run for it. He's been talking to himself about bizarre things for a while now. To prepare for just the right time, I'm going to make this my last post for now.
Afterward, Hasumi was never heard from again. Did you like our first story? We would be grateful if you could help us out by smashing the like and subscribe buttons. Your support would mean the world to our small channel, and we promise to continuously improve our content to keep you coming back for more. So thanks in advance, and now let's get on to our next story.
Our next story is titled, There's a Train Station Beyond the End of the Line.
This happened a while ago. I'm not entirely sure why I'm choosing to talk about it now, though. Well, I kinda do. I'll explain later. I have a bad habit of dozing off on the train. I don't blame it entirely on myself. My place of employment necessitates that I work long, hard, and obscure hours. More often than not, I find myself taking the very last train home at around 2 a.m. My stop is at the end of the line, so my whole trip takes me around 35 minutes, and of course I'm tired as hell by the end of it. Also, sometimes I get drunk. It happens. It's not like I want to fall asleep. I could get pickpocketed, or worse. It is what it is. Nobody's perfect, but it usually isn't a problem. Like I said, my stop's at the end of the line, so the driver would always wake me up when he came by to do his inspection of the cars. This has become such a routine that I know each and every one of the nighttime drivers by face. There's only 3, though. Not much of a feat. One of them is a quiet, gruff-looking gentleman in his mid-50s. One was even older, a South Asian man appearing to be in his 60s at least. The last guy was younger, possibly mid-20s. This guy always had extremely messy hair. This roster of drivers had remained the same for the past 4 years. All super nice guys, mind you. I had no reason to complain. I knew these people and I was comfortable with them. I expected to see them. So you could imagine my shock when I woke up to see an unfamiliar face staring down at me one night. I'd been out drinking and was about 2 or 3 beers away from throwing up my insides. Safe to say, I was not in the most alert state. It was still a jarring sight nonetheless. This guy must have stared at me for 10 seconds straight without saying a word. His appearance certainly didn't help either. I'm not one to judge looks, but this dude was beyond freaky. Have you ever seen Lost Highway? Remember that phone call scene with the mystery man? Well, that's roughly what he resembled. A bit younger, though. His face was nearly ghost pale and his eyes were wide and beady. His smile was unsettling at best and insanity-inducing at worst. On top of that, there was a hole in his neck. A fucking hole. I could see straight through it.
You've reached the end of the line,
he said. His voice was normal enough, especially given his throat, but his tone sounded like the one a child would make when he knew about something that his friends didn't. Yeah, sorry. Guess I dozed off again. It took all the strength I had not to focus on his neck hole, especially if the other option I had was to look into his eyes. He stopped leering at me and stood straight. He must have been about 6'6" or 2 meters tall. Also, strangely muscular for his height. An intimidating presence, to say the least. He stood still for a moment, trapping me in place. I was expecting him to say something after all, but he didn't. Instead, he just took off. After taking a second to adjust to the weirdness, I got off and began walking to the doors. I'd never been more ready to go home at that point, but the door didn't open. I pressed the button, but nothing happened. What the hell? I muttered, concern starting to rise in my chest. It hadn't even been 15 seconds since the driver got off. It didn't take long for me to start shoulder checking the door, and then I started yelling. There were only two things on my mind at that point. This door better open the fuck up, and this train better not start fucking moving. It was my lucky day. None of those things happened. "Hello, driver?" I yelled as the train departed. "What the fuck? I'm still here." Unfortunately, I was in one of the middle cars, so he couldn't hear me. One of my co-workers, Alan, had been on the train with me before I passed out. I also knew for a fact that he also got off at the end of the line, but I was alone. He was nowhere to be seen. I continued slamming on the doors and pressing the emergency stop button, but one thing was quickly becoming certain. This thing wasn't stopping. I sat down, resigned to my sudden fate. What the hell's going on? I thought to myself. The situation was truly bizarre. The driver would have had to sprint to the cab, prevent the doors from opening, and then drive off. This was all with the knowledge that some guy might still be on the train. What the fuck was his problem? Truth be told, I had no idea where trains went after hours. I just hoped that it wouldn't be too far. After all, my city wasn't huge, and the tracks had to end at some point. I looked out the windows, but it was mostly dark. A few buildings still had lights on, but not many. Not surprising in the dead of night. I tried calling Alan, but he wouldn't pick up. I cursed again. 15 minutes passed and I was starting to lose it. What the hell is shit, I thought. We were approaching the edge of the city. I was 99% certain that the tracks did not extend this far. It felt like I was having a fever dream. My hands were shaking and I was on the brink of hyperventilating. To combat that, I closed my eyes and started taking deep breaths. It's fine. It's all right, I thought. The driver's just a fucking idiot. Maybe I'll be compensated for the shit show. Yeah, free transit for a year. That's the least they could offer me. After calming myself down, I opened my eyes back up. It was still dark. I nearly screamed in frustration. I felt around me, confirming that I was definitely still on the train. But why were the lights off? It sounded like we were going through a tunnel, but even tunnels had lights. None of them were pitch black all the way through. Something else was bothering me as well. The vague sensation of a presence sitting right across from me. I sat utterly still for what felt like 5 minutes. Eventually, the train lights came back on. It was still empty. Even my mind was starting to play tricks on me. I looked out the windows, but it was still black. I took my phone out and dialed 911. It rang a few times before somebody picked up. "Hello?" I said. "Hello?" Nothing, just breathing on the other end. "Can you say something?" I screamed into the phone. Somebody finally responded, but it was in a language I couldn't recognize. Not just one I didn't understand. I know what French sounds like, even though I can't speak it. I'd never heard this dialect before in my entire life. I could only describe it as serpent-like. The mere sound of it made my skin feel like something was slithering beneath it. I hung up and buried my face into my hands. "This is not happening," I muttered to myself. I repeated this, hoping that it would cause me to wake up. It didn't really feel like a dream. Then again, we don't really know what dreams feel like, do we? Soon enough, the train came to a stop. I was glad, of course, but at the same time, I wasn't exactly excited to find out where the hell I was. I looked out the window. I think my heart nearly stopped. I didn't know what the hell I was supposed to be looking at. It almost resembled a desert, but a post-apocalyptic one. Everything was gray, including the sky. There were gigantic trees scattered throughout, along with massive vortex-like pits. Large, hunched figures wearing baggy black robes also dragged themselves across the sand. I couldn't tell from so far, but it almost looked like they had beaks coming out of their faces.
We've arrived.
I jumped at the sudden outburst. I turned around, seeing the driver standing at the door, smiling at me. Where the fuck am I? He angled his head and grinned even wider.
You'll want to get off before they get on,
he said.
The next station is not for you. You have 1 hour before your returning train arrives. Have fun exploring.
He started to leave, but turned back before he did.
Also, don't go out into the desert.
This time, the door stayed open after he left. The place we'd arrived at looked more or less like a regular station, if not a bit outdated. It was also gray, just like the desert outside. There were also people sitting on benches just outside the train. Well, I suppose they were people. They looked just like the driver. Pale, holes in throats, oddly tall and well-built. One of them suddenly got up and began approaching the train. I remembered what the driver had told me and immediately got off. From there, I ran the length of the train, finally spotting him in the driver's cab. I pounded on his window, managing to catch his attention. "Hey, what the hell is going on?" I asked him through the glass. I wasn't sure if he didn't hear me or if he was just being a huge asshole, but he just grinned at me and waved. Seconds later, he started driving, leaving me in that godforsaken place. At the very least, the station was now empty. I walked over and sat on one of the benches. I took my phone out and tried checking the time. I say tried because everything on my screen was now in gibberish, presumably the language that I'd heard earlier. 1 hour. I just had to wait for 1 hour and then I'd be back. Or I'd wake up, hopefully the latter. But before it had even felt like 5 minutes, something wandered onto the platform. I didn't look over at it. However, I was sure as hell this thing was looking at me. From the corner of my eye, it appeared like one of those hunched figures that had been out in the desert. I saw it shift in place before it started squawking like some kind of fucked up demon bird. I left almost immediately as it did. So much for my plan of sitting still. I saw a set of stairs going up and headed towards it. Once up, I found myself in what looked like a regular terminal. But just like the platform, it was a bit off. The architecture was hard to identify, definitely unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It was almost retro and futurist at the same time, with large banners and monitors displaying strange symbols set up just about everywhere. It's like they hired a doomsday cult to design the place. The place was populated by more of those neckhole people. Thankfully, they didn't seem to acknowledge me. I decided to walk around for a while, hoping that the hunched thing would be gone once I headed back down. Maybe a minute later, everybody stopped and directed death stares at me. Their expressions were so full of malice that I could feel my skin begin to crawl. I noticed that some of their eyes weren't directed at me, but at the space behind me. I slowly turned my head, seeing that the hunched creature had followed me up. I got a good look at it this time. I will probably never forget the sight of it. I was right. It had a beak, a large one. Its face nearly resembled some kind of alien bird-human hybrid. I stood still and began silently praying, not sure for what exactly. Almost in unison, the people opened their mouths to an unnervingly wide degree and began screaming. If this was a nightmare, this would have been the moment I woke up. But I didn't. The people began boxing me in, still screaming like damn banshees. I would take a step forward and the crowd would move with me. The creature was also hot on my trail the entire time. Eventually, I just started running. I tried breaking through the crowd a few times, but I would just get pushed in another direction. After some time of this, I was pinballed out of the terminal entirely. These bastards had directed me into the desert, along with the hunched creature. Once I was out, they stopped screaming and shut the terminal door behind them. The creature began squawking again before lurching at me. I could do nothing but run as it chased me. Soon enough, every single creature in the vicinity was also on my ass. It was like a nightmarish chain reaction. There were numerous times where I nearly ran into one of those swirling pits. There was definitely something dwelling inside them. I could hear it, the sickening, slithering sounds of something large within. There was no end in sight, and it was obvious that I couldn't run forever. The creatures started getting closer and I could see them up close. Their beaks were wide open with long, spiky tongues hanging out of them. The sight of it pushed me to continue running, but I wasn't superhuman. My lungs gave out before my legs did, but right before that, I could see a figure walking towards me. Not one of those hunched things. It was somebody familiar, but I passed out before I could find out. When I woke up, I was back on a train. I reeked of sweat and my joints ached, but I was nevertheless happy to be alive. But what the hell happened? I thought.
I told you not to go into the desert.
I looked over, seeing the driver once again standing by the door. I didn't really have a choice. What the fuck's wrong with this place? I said. The driver raised an eyebrow at me.
I thought you would have come better prepared. That's usually the case.
Better prepared? I asked, taken aback by the statement. What the hell are you talking about? I never planned on being here, whatever the goddamn hell this place is. This time he was the one that looked confused.
Is that so? Well, I doubt that you found this place on accident. Maybe something else is going on. Once you're back in your world, I advise you to be careful. This is a dangerous game to play. Well, I better get going.
Wait, I said. Why'd you save me?
It is strange,
he responded.
I usually wouldn't bother with it, but you were different. Not cocky like the others. It was a breath of fresh air, and I appreciated it.
He walked off the train, leaving me with about 1,000,000 questions. I didn't bother chasing after him. At that point, I didn't have the will or energy for it. I just sat tight. Soon enough, the train started moving. Just like they had on the way there, the lights went out again. But it wasn't a problem. Soon enough, the train arrived at the end of the line. The actual end of the line. I checked my phone. It was in English now, displaying 2:15 a.m. I couldn't understand how such little time had passed, but then again, I didn't understand a lot of things from that night. When I went into work the following Monday, I was still in a state of relative shock. I didn't want to believe what had happened, but it certainly wasn't a fucking dream. Maybe my drink got spiked at the bar or something. Talk about a delayed reaction. But deep down, I knew that any kind of reasoning I could conjure up was just a cope. It was an inexplicable event. I just had to accept that and never fall asleep on the train again. I saw Alan at lunch that day. I was tempted to say something about what had happened, but opted not to. I didn't want to be that crazy guy at work after all.
Totally sorry for dipping on Saturday, man,
he said to me.
I had to get off at an earlier stop. My sister lives downtown and she was having some kind of emergency, like geez, right?
He chuckled. I just nodded.
So anyways,
he continued.
Anything interesting happened on the train?
I didn't like his tone with that question. It was almost as if he already knew the answer and just wanted to hear me say it. Also, if I'd been asleep, then why the hell would he not have woken me up before he left? Something wasn't right. Nothing noteworthy, no. You know how boring this city is? His smile slowly faded.
Oh, okay.
Why do you ask? He shook his head.
No reason. Just glad you made it home safe.
That conversation shouldn't have been anything substantial. But given the circumstances, it made me wonder. I've been working from home for a few weeks now, so I haven't seen him since. But he sent me a text last night.
Hey man, let's go out once this is all over. Go crazy. You down?
I put my phone down and thought about what the driver had told me. I doubt that you found this place on accident. I'm starting to think that I didn't. Hope you like our stories for the week. Now, let's discuss their details, and I'll let my friends talk about it this time.
Our first story, The Devil Station, is none other than the infamous Kisaragi Station thread. This thread came from 2chan, a discontinued Japanese internet forum website. This thread, Thread 26, was posted in the middle of another thread called Post About Strange Occurrences Around You back in 2004. The poster was anonymous at first, but started attaching her name later. The OP seemed to be lost in some sort of train station and wanted to ask help from the people in 2chan, since Facebook and other social media giants was still not a thing back then. It was a live thread for a couple of hours, just before line 635 where the OP stopped responding. The story sparked internet frenzy back then, and was covered by multiple Japanese news outlets. It even made its way to TV shows and movies. Until today, no one knows the identity of the OP Hasumi. And no one knows if this was just an elaborate prank, or if this really happened. So how about you? What do you think? Is Hasumi a real girl who got stuck in the so-called Devil Station? Or is this a hoax? We'll love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. We've left the link for the original 2chan thread, and a page where it was translated in the description box.
As for the second story, there's a train station beyond the end of the line, is a creepypasta written by Mr_Outlaw_, submitted to Reddit under the subreddit r/nosleep. All credits to this mind-boggling story goes to Mr_Outlaw_. We've left the link to the original story in the description box, as well as the author's Reddit page, in case you want to read more amazing stories from Mr_Outlaw_.
Great job, everyone. I really had fun doing this episode with you. I hope we can do this again next time. Thanks, guys.
You're welcome, Lucas.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Thanks for tuning in to Enigmatic Episodes, and for lending us your ears as we shared these spine-tingling tales. If you have any suggestions for topics or stories, or if you have a real-life creepy experience of your own to share, please don't hesitate to leave a comment below or connect with us on our Facebook account. All of our social media links are in the description box. We value each and every one of our listeners, and we read all of your messages, so feel free to drop us a line, and we'll do our best to reply. That's it for this week. We'll be back with more spooky stories next week. Again, my name is Lucas, and you've been listening to Enigmatic Episodes. Thank you so much.